Thank you for tuning in to New Broadcast, the official Subtext podcast, broadcast, whatever you might want to call this. It's a video, it's audio, it might be a text message you're reading. Who knows? I'm joined here with Tony Guzman, who's the principal product manager for the Washington Post. He's been our contact for the Washington Post Live Better with Little Effort. Let me say that again. Live Better with Little Effort campaign, which has been an incredible success. It's a very unique use case that I know I'm head over heels about, Tony's head over heels about, and I'm hopefully you're head over heels about too.
Definitely.
If you're a subscriber. I'm Dennis. I am a customer success manager and your host for the podcast today. Tony, how you doing? How's it going?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me on.
Of course, man. Of course. So like I said, I wanted to talk to you today, mostly because your guys' campaign is probably the most unique campaign we have on the platform. When we were setting it up, obviously the setup process was a whole lot, which we'll get into. But when we were setting it up, I don't think I really had a full grasp on like how well thought out, well planned, well strategized the entire campaign was until I started to see the launch and start digging into the campaign and helping you out to answer questions on using it. For those who aren't aware, the campaign is a fully automated self-service SMS campaign where they completely take advantage of auto-reply keywords and tags and basically give a crash course that lasts, 2-3 weeks?
It varies, but roughly, yeah.
For subscribers that sign up to it. That's a very bad, very short, very unjust way of describing it. So, Tony, if you don't mind, if you could just go into describing what the campaign is,
Yep.
and then a little bit about what inspired you guys to make it.
Sure. Yeah. And again, thanks for having me on. And it's always fun to talk about this. It's a really exciting project we're working on. So yeah, to give you a little bit of background, so I am on a team called Next Gen at the Washington Post. Our mission at the Post is to figure out new, interesting, innovative ways to attract younger and more diverse audiences. And so when I started at the Post last summer, I started immediately thinking about SMS because I just sort of knew that it's in a lot of ways an untapped channel. There's a lot of potential with this channel. Certainly if you do it right, if you do it smart, strategically. But I wanted to think about ways to use SMS at the Post. Now, interestingly, the Post has done experiments with SMS and texting in the past, but they were pretty minor and sort of not sort of big initiatives. And so I wanted to sort of go to the next level with thinking about texting and as a way to engage with our audience, and all through that lens of Next Gen of attracting younger and more diverse audiences that the Post doesn't typically attract, frankly. And this particular campaign is in partnership with the Home You Own section of the Washington Post. The Home You Own is part of our Home and Garden lifestyle section. And Home You Own's mission is to offer our readers very practical, very doable, sort of service-oriented tips on everything from cleaning your house and apartment to gardening to organizing and decluttering, things like that. But ultimately, the whole goal of Home You Own and the mission of Home You Own is to empower our readers. And so when we started talking to them a few months ago, it just made a lot of sense to like partner because their whole mission is to offer practical advice on, again, making your living space better. And we were thinking about using this tool, using SMS, this audience channel, in new, interesting ways. So we started to have a conversation around what that might look like, and we really started to gravitate towards a course, this idea of something that we ask users to do, like to go through this sort of path with us. And then we realized that we didn't want to be fully involved. And what I mean by that is we don't have the bandwidth to every single week or every single day even be on top of like what we're saying and what we're doing or we're asking people to do. We wanted to really sort of create a structure where it can almost be evergreen and people can just go through this course on their own time, on their own space, at their own pace, I mean, and get the most out of it as best they can. And ultimately, the thing that we kept asking ourselves is why SMS, right? Like what about the texting experience and in terms of the content that we were thinking about would make it the most valuable? And what we kept coming back to was make it practical, maybe make it tip oriented or task oriented, where every single message that user gets is something concrete that they can do. In some cases, right then and there. So we always wanted to be thinking about what is the value of this experience, and hopefully getting the most out of it from the user perspective. So that's how we sort of came into this project and sort of planned it out, and then we went from there.
Right. And when you're working so with your department, you guys are solely focused towards, younger audiences and trying to attract their attention. What about the home you own speaks to a younger audience in the first place? Because I mean, I'm a younger audience member, and I don't see myself owning a house in the next 15 years the way things are going. That was a joke. But the home
one.
you own, obviously, it goes towards more holistic stuff that is, I guess, digestible from a younger audience's perspective.
Totally.
What about the way that you guys have that article or that section set up? Do you think translated best over SMS, and why do you think? Yeah, let's leave it at that. What translated best about over SMS from the home you own, and why was that like the first choice? I guess
That's a great question. And I think what we kept coming back to was home you own is all about practical, and what is how can you distill down the advice on whether you do own a home? And we're trying to, the home you own uses home in a very broad sense. It's not just
right.
actually owning a home, it's your apartment, it's where you live, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we think about that, and the way that they sort of structure their reporting and their journalism is really about the most practical, the most impactful advice that they can offer, that anybody can do, whether they're, again, a renter or a homeowner,
Mm-hmm.
if they're younger or older, it doesn't really matter. And so when we think about our younger audiences, we know that that's something that they value a lot, is give me what I need to know. People are busy. They're
Gotcha.
on their mobile devices. They're constantly getting information from so many different channels, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the most practical and sort of utilitarian that you can be,
Right.
the better. And so again, it just made a ton of sense to work with the home you own team um, in this SMS type experience, because it was just like a natural fit. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. And the only reason I'm smiling is because I could just think of myself, like, seeing the stains that my son leaves on the bathroom mirror, and
Sure,
like,
sure, sure.
"Oh, mirror, clean, wipe," to the Live Better campaign. And then it's just like, here, use vinegar and lemon juice, and it'll be gone for like 2 weeks until he
There you go.
scoops some more Greek yogurt onto your mirror.
Incredible.
Awesome, awesome. I think that really speaks to, I mean, obviously, like I've already cushied up your campaign enough. The campaign continues to grow, and it continues to have tremendous amounts of activity, and barely any churn, which is awesome. When people talk about churn or just retaining subscribers or audience members, that normally goes towards the goals of whatever article, whatever news site it might be. So, what goals with your campaign did you guys set out from the get go? When as soon as you started launching it, and
Yeah,
which have kind of stuck around, or have you realized at this point, or if any have changed?
totally. The biggest thing for us in terms of goals was how how do we know if we want people to get the most out of this, right? That's the goal, is to get the most possible value. But then the question becomes, how do we know that? How do we understand
Mm,
the value that people are getting? And so then we have to sort of try to quantify that question. And in the case of how we structured this campaign, like you said, it's all automated replies based. So on one hand, the user, the subscriber is in control. They're in the driver's seat. They're going at their own pace, and which is great. That was intentional. We wanted them to be in the driver's seat 100%. The other side of that equation though is that people are busy and people are
Hmm.
doing their thing and going about their day. And so if they move on and, sort of are not in that text message thread, they're going to forget, they're going to move on. They're not going to be thinking about it. And so one thing that we really put an emphasis on from day one was this concept of nudges, of essentially pushing people down the funnel of the course. If
Right.
you think of the course as a starting point and an end point, a nudge is critically important for us to sort of encourage the person to keep going, to keep trying to get to that end point, of the experience of the course. And so something we knew would be important, but we didn't realize how important was how it was these nudges and sending reminders, sending tips, asking for feedback, and being very mindful of people are busy. So it's not because they don't care. They're, in fact, we're getting really good feedback on how it's going. It's more we have to play the role of almost like facilitator, somebody who
Sure.
like helps them through that process.
Hmm.
Let's have a space for them to ask questions. And that's been really um, surprising in a good way to see how valuable those nudges have been. And we've been very strategic about when we nudge. We don't want to nudge on day one, day two, if they
Sure.
just signed up yesterday,
Yeah.
because we want to give people time to go through it. So we sort of come up with criteria for when we want to try nudges, when we want to re-nudge somebody. So maybe it's been a few weeks since they've last been touched, essentially. So yeah, at the end of the day, to answer your question, the goal was always around getting as many people as possible through the experience, through the course, and having as much value out of it. And the way that we've been able to measure value is essentially how deep, right? How like far into the course someone gets. And nudges have been an important tactic to sort of play to push people down that path.
Got it. Would you consider the nudges more of like a tool or more of like I guess, a metric in determining the success of somebody's progress through the course, right? Because obviously you're using it as a tool to like reactivate people, like, hey, hey, wake up,
Yeah.
flip the textbook, learn how to wipe Greek yogurt stains off the mirror, or uh, maybe you're looking at it more as like, all right, we're sending them this message, and X amount of people are actually progressing, or X amount of people are kind of, they're done, they're at their desk. Which way do you look at it, or is it kind of a hybrid of both?
I think you described it well, that it's a tool, that it's a tactic to push people to continue to get value out of the course. We know people are liking it, we're getting good feedback from it. But again, people are busy, people have so much going on, and so we need a tactic like nudges to sort of keep them from getting that value, or at least maximizing the amount of value they can get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the role it has played in this campaign, is just it's a tactic. It's to keep pushing people, and reminding people to get that value out of it.
Got it. Now, could you share how exactly you come up with those nudge lists? Because
Oh, sure.
it's just fascinating to me. Like we'll get into like how you set up the whole campaign in the first place, but the nudge list specifically, uh,
Sure.
very
Yeah.
fascinating.
So again, like what's interesting about to set some context about this course is that it's fully automated, and people are coming in every day to the course, and they're obviously starting on step one.
Actually, yeah,
And
let's
there's oh
let's
yeah,
uh
go
let's
ahead.
talk about how we have the automation set up, because I think it'd be
Okay.
worthwhile for people to see, like, at least be able to visualize the tags and all that, before we get into the nudge list.
Sure. So when I was describing how we sort of strategically thought about this campaign and what we prioritize and all that, and this idea of making it fully automated actually sort of happened by accident. It wasn't necessarily an intentional part of
Nice.
it, but it's worked out. But basically, we knew a couple of things from the get-go when we started thinking about the actual content of the course. One was we wanted to have four different topics that somebody could um, learn about or do, right? So organizing, by that I mean like cleaning your closet, organizing your counter space, things like that. Cleaning house plants. So we know that's a big area that is very popular on our site, and also applicable whether you own an apartment or own a house or rent an apartment.
Hmm.
And the fourth was DIY projects. So four topics, but somebody might be interested in DIY but not house plans. Somebody might be
Sure.
interested in cleaning but not organizing, case
Yep.
may be, right? So right away we're like, well, we want to give people a choice of what path they go down. So when we knew that there's that sign up flow of you sign up and you get a welcome message, right away we want to give people the chance to essentially pick the path they go down, right? Picking the topic that they want to start with. And then it's just sort of kept evolving, right? Then we said, okay, well, if you pick the cleaning tasks, do you care about bathroom tips? Do you care about, kitchen? Where, like, what about that topic do you care about?
Hmm.
So then we realized, what if we had the choice of picking the four topics from the welcome message that's automated? Then there's a second level deep where you then pick within that topic what you want to learn about from there.
Yep.
And you can see how it sort of snowballed, right? We went from four topics with like one level of quote unquote automation to, well, why don't we just keep going? And that the side benefit, or not even the side benefit, the big benefit of this is that it played into our original vision of it being, you know, the user is in control. They can control how fast they do it, how slow they do it, what they care about. We just sort of leaned all the way in on that idea. And the automated replies just sort of enable that approach, because everything is automated. Everything you learn about when you're ready for the next tip, um, all the sort of decision trees and like branches of how what direction you go within the course is all
Hmm.
automated. Um, and so yeah, it just sort of worked. It sort of worked out that way.
That's awesome. I love how you described it because I remember when I first like realized, oh, they have a whole like choose your own adventure kind of thing here. I'd love
Yeah,
to see how they map this out. I think I asked you for like the roadmap of it, and you sent over a file. I don't. I think it was a spreadsheet.
it's a spreadsheet.
That
Yeah,
you,
yep.
yeah, and I remember looking at it and thinking, I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. This is like, this is a whole different language. Because like in my head, I can see the decision trees and see like how you might loop back after somebody finished a course or if they want to learn more
Yeah,
about something else. But for you to
exactly.
organize it in that way and especially communicate across departments in that nature to successfully launch it, uh, incredibly impressive.
I
Um,
appreciate that.
yeah. So when it comes to nudges, though, how are we getting how are we getting those lists of users? Because you have, like you said, a ton of kind of fork in the road paths where people might be going, and you want to target certain people who might have not finished one area, and there's maybe three more areas they can
Right.
explore upon, but they haven't made that choice yet. What are what's the criteria that you use when you're targeting them? How do you target them, and then how are you compiling the list of subscribers to target in those weekly nudges that we tag and send out?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it, you're being very kind. I think it's not that complicated, but maybe I'm so close to it that I I just
Yeah.
I'm used to it. But I think at the end of the day, it's hopefully very simple, which is, again, anybody can come in at any given day. So they're starting at step one, and there's a even all with all these decision trees and branches and choose your own adventure, there is an endpoint too, right? So there's
Hmm.
start and end. And so what we did, and again, this was just came organically. It wasn't like some master plan. It was just as we started having these conversations with my amazing colleagues, like we thought through like what when would somebody be a sort of ready to be nudged, right? And so we thought, okay, well, we don't want to do it right away. We'll give them some time. So then we thought, want to at least be subscribed for like 3 days, right? So the time is a criteria that we look at. How recently did somebody sign up? That's one criteria. The other is distance. By that I mean how far into the course are they? Again, start and
Hmm.
end is sort of baked in. If they only did one step, like they only picked that initial topic of the four that I mentioned, then they didn't really start yet, right? Because they've picked, oh, I want to start with cleaning, and we give them some tips. But if they sort of got distracted and didn't continue, we know that they're interested in cleaning,
Hmm.
but they haven't gone the actual step of doing the tasks that are
Right.
in that section of the course, right?
Right.
So at the end of the day, it really just came down to how recently did they sign up is the criteria, and then how far did they go within each of the four sections.
Right.
And really by that's actually even simpler because it's just did they start and not continue. And that's really the criteria that we look at to nudge people on a weekly basis. And so far, like I said, it's worked and it's helped. We see good returns in terms of sending out those broadcasts, reminding people that, hey, like, how's it going? Just
Hmm.
checking in. Don't forget to continue on. That's the gist of the message that we send when we nudge folks.
Right.
And it's been working pretty well.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear too that you've been seeing good returns on actually pinging these people and saying like, "Hey, what's going on? Don't forget to check this out right here."
Right.
Because a lot of questions that I get from our hosts a lot of the time is, "Oh, do you think it's a good idea for me to send a broadcast when I'm normally individually replying to people and some people just don't text back?" And I
Right.
always encourage broadcasts because that's like the bread and butter of Subtext. It's the name of the show, new broadcast. But
Right.
we, you want to initiate conversations with people because that's why they're signing up to the campaign. It's not to, just be signed up and be a subscriber and then every so often look at your phone and see, oh, it's a text message from that campaign. I subscribe. They're not, majority of the time, they're not doing that. They're probably looking for some, call to action, some individual response or like acknowledgement. With a campaign like yours where it is all automated and you guys aren't necessarily
Yeah.
facilitating those one-on-one conversations, those nudges probably is doing exactly that. I can't say for sure
Right.
because I'm not a part of the intimate conversations that might be going on, but like you said, you're having good returns and people are re-initiating into the purpose of your campaign, which
Yeah.
I think we both
Absolutely.
consider a win.
Definitely.
Awesome.
It's been looking
Awesome.
good. Yeah.
How did you come across Subtext? Let's just put it that way.
Ooh, great question. Actually, I think maybe now it's been a couple of years, but when the Texas Tribune
Mm.
during the weather outage,
Mm-hmm.
the heavy winter
Yep.
storms and massive weather issues and blackouts in Texas in I want to say it was 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I saw that they were using texting to communicate with their members and readers. I thought that was very cool. I mean, it was a horrible circumstances certainly, but like it was
Sure.
just an interesting use of texting.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, again, I've seen other news organizations dabble with texting and try it as a channel, but I just thought that that was such a unique and brilliant, frankly, way to sort of take advantage of the moment that they were in, which is literally people had no electricity in their
Right.
homes,
Right.
and use texting as a way to communicate critical information to their people, to their subscribers and supporters and readers. And so I think just through that, I saw that they were using Subtext
Mm-hmm.
as their platform. And then I've seen David speak at conferences and even been around. Um, so yeah, so it was one of the first places I reached out to when I knew that we wanted like I said at the beginning, like start to experiment again at the post with texting is I started talking to Subtext folks.
Is there anything that has happened on the campaign? Like I've said so many times already, you guys by far the most prepared campaign we've ever had, the most successfully executed. I check your numbers like every day just to make sure your deliverability is on point. It's like 99.9%. I think that 0.1% is people like who just put in their landline for whatever reason. Um, is there anything that surprised you so far with your experience on the platform? Since you've been so prepped, since you had everything, all your ducks in a row going into it, has anything come as a surprise? And how have you handled it if it needed handling?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, first of all, I just want to take a moment to thank my amazing colleagues because this was not just Tony's brain coming up with this. This was, and a lot of these people, Dennis. But so first of all, Marissa. because she
Mm-hmm.
knows the editor of Home You Own. She
Shout out Marissa.
was an amazing partner to like think through again the content and what would be the most valuable to people
Sure.
as they would sign up the course. My colleague Yu, she is a brilliant brain in terms of audience engagement and again thinking through what how to make it the most practical. Demi Walls is our marketing guru. So all the
Mm-hmm.
stuff when it comes to how we communicate outward, how we sort of package this, it's all her brain and her and to your point, like her organization. She was the one to sort of think through like how we want to like what's the strategy around it and sort of what what the package is for our users and what the value proposition is.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the sort of key questions that are important and that I'm a product guy, so like I'm not always thinking about. But she's so great at with it. So anyway, I have amazing colleagues I've been working with on this project that made it possible. I think what, if you're asking me what surprised me, um, that's a really good question. I guess I would say that the people we're getting a lot of anecdotal feedback, so maybe it's not like the most scientific, but that
Mm-hmm.
they want more. And so in
That's
a way
good.
that's a good thing, right? It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
um it's a really good thing, truly, but like a lot of people are saying things like, well, I wanted tips on, I don't know,
Greek yogurt
like
stains on them. I sorry. I see it and I'm like a dog. I can't. All right, go ahead.
yeah, or like it's something that someone the other day was talking about, like how do I organize my desk that I work at where I work from home and I
Oh, I
my
can
desk is
understand.
full of
Yeah.
paperwork everywhere, or how do I like more tips on bathroom stuff and like the legitimate and valid questions. And so we're just thinking about like, can this scale? Like, how do we expand it? In a way, again, that we have limited resources around it. So, um, ju- maybe that's not the best answer to your question, but ultimately, we we've we've gotten good feedback. We're very excited about the feedback we've gotten. The question is really just about how can we keep adding value to the user and like give them what they want. And and then again, at least with the way that we structure this campaign, knowing that it is so choose your own adventure, like, are there ways to sort of keep nudging people
Right.
and sort of engaging with them at any point in their life cycle?
Right.
So those are my big takeaways, I guess.
Nice. So just the amount that people want more and the actual opportunities to continue to expand and experiment some more within.
Experiment's a big word. It's like we need to experiment with how we engage with folks, how we package it. Um, so yeah, I think there's a lot more we can do for sure.
I love it. I love it so much. I think if you ask anybody on Subtext, I was always the guy from the beginning before we even had like journalists on the platform where I was like smoking cigarettes at my desk, like, well, we can segment this audience and we could ask them to do this and then turn out content and then tell them to text the campaign. I was always asking like the most out of all of our hosts, and these people were like, we just want to tell them when our carne asada is. Like it wasn't anything crazy or remotely close to what you guys have put together. That's why I've been like all over it.
I appreciate that.
No, it's great. How's the buy-in been around the rest of the org when it comes to, or just not necessarily buy-in? Let's rephrase that. How's the reception been towards your guys' campaign? What have people told you about it? How has it
Yeah,
come across?
very positive, very excited. I think in fact it's sort of spurred more conversations and brainstorming around how other ways that we can use SMS. How can we potentially replicate this course to other sections at the post, other channels? So more to come certainly on that. But like, yeah, we're using this as a, like you said, an experiment and as a way to learn how to use SMS in more creative ways at the post, whether it's courses like this or um, other ways that we haven't even thought of yet. So it's exciting. It's definitely, I think there's a lot of interest within the organization to keep dabbling, if not, going deeper into SMS and text messaging. So I'm excited about that for sure.
That's great to hear. I'm sure that especially if they have you, Demi, uh, you as well.
Yeah.
That would be the brainchild behind this. If they have the brainchild behind this campaign and you guys are applied onto any other campaign, I'm sure it'll be a major hit. Anything more you'd like to share with myself, the team, any of the hosts, anybody watching this regarding Subtext?
No, I think I'm excited about the platform. I'm excited about some of the new features that are being sort of talked about, and I think, I think you sort of just touched on a little bit ago, like being able to segment and being more sort of granular, I guess, for lack of a better word, on about who we message with broadcasts and when.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of potential there,
Definitely.
because as lists, as campaigns grow, everybody's at different points, and so in terms of recommendations or tips that I would give other Subtext users would be, just be both mindful and sort of thoughtful at the beginning of who you're targeting, what their expectations are, but also be able to adapt, because you will get surprised. You'll like in our case, again, we didn't realize how important nudges would be relative to the success of the campaign, and so we had to really adapt to those needs.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I think I'm excited about what else we can be doing, and trying to use Subtext for that is important too.
Oh, well, I'll definitely be here and eager to hear how you guys adapt and
Excellent.
what you need me to do for you.
Awesome. Good to hear.
All right, Tony. Hopefully, the next time we talk, both of our teams will be conquering Game 7 and moving on to our respective conference finals.
Let's do it.
Well, this will come out after that, so maybe there'll be like a celebratory thumbs up edit. I do. Let's both do a thumbs up, or it was just gonna be like grayscale,
Yes.
wasted
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto. Again, thank you so much for joining. This has been a wealth of knowledge. I'm sure everybody who listens to it will have plenty to take away from it. And yeah,
Thanks.
go Warriors.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dennis. Good to be here. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Take it
All
easy.
right, take care.